Good day to you all. Today is the 5th of June, as according to the old calendar. I am, of course, Reader Lazar. Welcome to Voices of British Orthodoxy. Before we do read the one entry that is common between both the group chat and the book, you might be wondering, yes, Saint Boniface is commemorated today on the old calendar, but didn't he die in Germany? Isn't he the enlightener of Germany? Well, just like the same way we included Saint Dymphna, who technically died in one of the Benelux countries. Saint Boniface was British, or from the Isles, so I will be reading his entry here. I think, yeah, because it says up here that he was born in Devonshire, so yeah, it's like, as far as I'm concerned, him, Dymphna, and any other saints that might have been, and I'm pretty sure we, even a few days ago, read the life of a saint that died outside of Britain, that died in Rome and is very commemorated. Well, maybe not a few days ago, but within the last couple of weeks, we read a saint who has a lot of churches in Italy, even though he started out his journey in Britain. So yeah, it's like, as far as I'm concerned, he is fair game. He counts as a British saint. If you disagree, I am sorry to hear that. You can always, I guess, turn off once we've read the entry of Saint Tudno. But yeah, anyway. And then we will talk about what's on the right side after. Anyway, first entry of the day is the very short entry for St. Tudno from the book, and he is from the 6th century. St. Tudno was a 6th century Welsh saint for whom Llandudno in Gwynedd is named. No other information on his life is extant. And now for his entry in the group chat. 6th century, St. Tudno is said to have been one of the 7 sons of St. Siphanin, whose legendary kingdom in Cardigan Bay was submerged by tidal activity. Each son, in reparation for their father's neglect, so it was seen, studied in St. Donald's College at Bangor Iscoed. I've probably butchered the second part of that. Iscoed. Later, Tudno established the church on the Great Rock, the Great Orne. The Argavlek, a small cave on the head, difficult of access, but with a clear spring of water, was his cell. His ancient church has been heavily restored many times until nothing remains from Tudno's day. The church does, however, have a medieval carved wooden emblem high above the chancel step, depicting the wounds of Christ. Such an emblem surviving in Wales is almost unique. Only one other is known, and it is in the neighbouring parish of Llanrhos. Now, for the entry of St. Boniface, enlightener of Germany. St. Boniface, enlightener of Germany, plus, and then in brackets it says plus June 5th, 754 or 755. Our father among the saints, St. Boniface, the apostle of the Germans, was born Winfrid, or Winfrith, at Crediton in Devonshire in 672. He was of good family, and it was somewhat against his father's wishes that he devoted himself at an early age to the monastic life. He received his theological training in the Benedictine monasteries of Adesen Castra, near Exeter, and Nursling between Winchester and Southampton. Under the abbot, Winbert taught in the abbey school, and at the age of 30 became a priest. He wrote the first Latin grammar produced in England. In 716, in 716, he set out on a missionary expedition to Frisia, intending to convert the Frisians by preaching to them in their own language, his own Anglo-Saxon tongue being similar to Frisian, but his efforts were frustrated by the war then being carried on between Charles Martel and Radbod, king of the Frisians. He returned to Nursling. Winfrid again set out in 718, visited Rome, and was commissioned in 719 by Pope Gregory II, who gave him his new name of Boniface. He set out to evangelize in Germany, and reorganized the church there. For 5 years, St. Boniface labored in Hesse, Thuringia, and Frisia, and on November 30th, 722, he is elevated to the bishop, to bishop of the Germanic territories. He would bring into the fold of the Christian church. In 723, Boniface felled the sacred Oak of Four, which the local pagans had kept as a sacred place, near the present-day town of Fritzlar in northern Hesse. With Elijah in mind, St. Boniface called upon Four to strike him down if he cut his holy tree, according to St. Boniface's first biographer, his contemporary St. Willibald. St. Boniface started to chop the oak tree down when suddenly a great wind, as if sent by God, blew the ancient oak over. When Four did not strike him down, the people converted to Christianity. St. Boniface then built a chapel from its wood at the site where today stands the Cathedral of Fritzlar. Later, he established the first bishopric in Germany north of the old Roman lines at the Frankish fortified settlements of Boreburg, on a prominent hill facing the town across the Eder River. The felling of Four's Oak is commonly regarded as the beginning of German Christianization, north and east of the old borders of the Roman Empire. From that point on, St. Boniface's modus operandi was to go directly to the pagans sacred and first strike them down. Many people actually credit St. Boniface with the invention of the Christmas tree. The Oak of Four was chopped down by St. Boniface, and a fir tree growing in the roots of the oak was claimed by the saint as a new symbol. This humble tree's wood is used to build your homes. Let Christ be at the center of your households. Its leaves remain evergreen in the darkest days. Let Christ be your constant light. Its boughs reach out to embrace, and its top points to heaven. Let Christ be your comforter and guide. In 732, he travelled again to Rome to report, and Gregory II confronted upon him the Pallium as archbishop with jurisdiction over Germany. St. Boniface again set out for what is now Germany, baptized thousands, and dwelt with the problems of many other Christians who had fallen out of contact with the regular hierarchy of the church. During his third visit to Rome in 737 to 738, he was made papal legate for Germany. In 745, he was granted Mainz as metropolitan see. After his third trip to Rome, St. Boniface went to Bavaria and founded there the bishoprics of Salzburg, Regensburg, Freising, and Passau. In 742, one of his disciples, Sturm, also known as Sturmi or Sturmius, founded the Abbey of Fulda not too far from Boniface's earlier missionary outpost at Fritzlar. Although Sturm was the founding abbot of Fulda, St. Boniface was very involved in the foundation. The initial grant for the abbey was signed by Carloman, the son of Charles Martel. The support of the Frankish mayors of the palace, and later the early Pipinid and Carolingian rulers, was important to St. Boniface's program of conversion. The Christian Frankish leaders desired to defeat their rival power, the heathen Saxons, and to take the Saxon lands for their growing empire. St. Boniface's destruction of the indigenous Germanic faith and holy sites was an important part of the Frankish campaign. St. Boniface balanced this support and attempted to maintain some independence. However, by attaining the support of the papacy and of the Agilolfing rulers of Bavaria in Frankish, Hessian, and Thuringian territory, he implanted the dioceses of Büreburg, Würzburg, and Erfurt. He also organized provincial synods in the Frankish church and maintained a sometimes turbulent relationship with the king of the Franks, Pepin, whom he may have crowned at Soissons in 551. By appointing his own followers as bishops, he was able to retain some independence from the Carolingian rulers, who most likely were content to give him leeway. He never relinquished his hope of converting the Frisians, and in 754 he set out with a small retinue for Frisia. He baptized a great number and summoned a general meeting for confirmation at a place not far from Dockham, between Franeker and Groningen. Instead of his converts, however, a group of armed inhabitants appeared who slew the aged archbishop. His remains were eventually buried in the Abbey of Fulda. Now we have the preface for the Liturgy of St. Boniface's Day in the Old English liturgical books reads, "It is truly meet and just and availing to salvation that we should always and in all places give thanks to thee, O Holy Lord, Father Almighty, everlasting God, whose grace chose blessed Boniface to the episcopate, whose teaching made him wise in preaching, whose power strengthened him to preserve that by the way of the priestly mitre he might reach the plum of martyrdom, both teaching his subjects by preaching, and instructing them how to live by his example, and confirming them by suffering, that he might come to thee to be crowned, who had fiercely overcome the threats of his persecutors. By his intercessions we beseech thee, may he cleanse us of our misdeeds, who please thee with such choice manifestations of thy gifts. Through Christ our Lord, by whom angels praise thy majesty, dominions worship, the powers tremble, the heavens and the heavenly virtues, and the blessed Seraphim conceal in one exultation, with whom command our voices also to have entrance, we beseech thee, humbly confessing thee and saying, Holy, holy, holy. And then it just says, etc. From the Old Sarum Rite Missal, 1998, St. Hilarion Press. I will copy and paste that for the description, even though, personally I'm not too fond of the Western Rite, but if anybody here if any of the Western writers and whatnot are listening to this, that might be of value to you. May those saints intercede for us before the righteous judge. And on the right side, you can see we have a pilgrimage to Lazaritza, where on the Saturday, the 5th of July, 2025, we will be celebrating all the saints of Great Britain and Ireland. And, Divine Liturgy starts at 9 a.m, and it will be an English service done by our Byzantine choir. I hope you all can come and attend. I will probably do my best to promote this in every video, probably up until the Friday just before, assuming there are any saints for then. So that's 2 weeks this Saturday, if you are seeing this now. And also, before we do end, St. Boniface obviously died outside of Britain, but he was born in Britain. Similar thing for St. Dymphna, and again, one of the other saints from a few weeks ago. And I guess that might raise the question, will we ever read the life of St. Constantine on here? St. Constantine the Great, because technically he did live in York. The thing is, though, technically, 1, he's a sub, and 2, he was born in Niš. I don't know how to pronounce it, in southern Serbia. So maybe if once the podcast is set up, when we have a time to talk about, if I ever find the co-host for the podcast, he might be mentioned and we might talk, this is a pretty important saint who did spend some time in Britain. But for the most part, I think I'd maybe read it as a separate video, because he did, at the very least, lead. But I don't think I'd read him with any other saints for his actual day. Anyway, if you disagree with that, if you agree with that, leave a comment down below. I am very interested in hearing your thoughts, because how you would want to see the saints is also partially down to you. I do think that, at the very least, the three saints that I've mentioned, Saints Dymphna, Boniface, and the saint who I have forgotten the name of, who is, like, popular and did a lot of stuff in Italy, are, are and were fair game to cover on this channel. Anyway, I think I will end this here. I've took 15 minutes of your time, so God bless you all. I hope to see you on the 5th of July. I've seen in group chats other pilgrimages and stuff that are also happening. I don't have any information about them, but I just thought I'd also remind you that if you want to, if you receive a blessing to send any photos, videos of whatever, of the, like, pilgrimage to specific British saints or whatever, then yeah, that'd be great, and I would be happily to upload your stuff, giving full credit to you and whoever organised it, and providing any necessary links. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I've been Rita Lazar. This has been Voices of British Orthodoxy, as always. I hope you enjoyed today's video. God bless you all, and Amen.